The deafening crack of gunfire shattered the Saturday afternoon calm at Westfield Shopping Center. In that frozen moment of terror as a masked gunman's weapon swung toward a little girl clutching her pink balloon, Marcus Thompson, a janitor everyone ignored, made a split-second decision that would change everything. The bullet meant for 7-year-old Emma Chen tore through his body instead, and as he collapsed onto the cold marble floor, nobody yet knew the extraordinary truth about the man who'd just traded his life for a stranger's child. Stay with me until the end of this incredible story, and don't forget to comment your city below. I'd love to know how far this tale of courage has traveled. The morning had started like any other Saturday for Marcus Thompson. His alarm clock buzzed at 5:30, the same ungodly hour it did every weekend when he pulled double shifts at the Westfield Shopping Center. He rolled out of bed quietly, careful not to wake his 8-year-old daughter Lily, who was sprawled across her tiny bed in their one-bedroom apartment, her stuffed rabbit clutched tightly to her chest. Marcus stood in the doorway for a moment, watching his daughter sleep. The soft morning light filtering through the threadbare curtains illuminated her peaceful face, and he felt that familiar ache in his chest, the one that reminded him of all the things he couldn't give her, all the opportunities she deserved, but he couldn't afford. His eyes drifted to the framed photograph on her nightstand, a younger version of himself in military dress uniform, standing next to Sarah, his late wife, both of them beaming at the camera. That photo was taken just 2 weeks before his final deployment to Afghanistan, before everything changed, before the world he'd known crumbled into dust. "Daddy," Lily's sleepy voice pulled him from his thoughts. "Hey, sweetheart," Marcus whispered, moving to sit on the edge of her bed. "Go back to sleep. Mrs. Rodriguez will be here soon to watch you." "Do you have to work today?" she asked, rubbing her eyes. "It's Saturday. Melissa's dad is taking her to the zoo." The words hit him like tiny daggers. Marcus forced a smile. "I know, baby, but hey, tomorrow's Sunday. How about we pack a picnic and go to the park?" "Just you and me." Lily's face brightened slightly. "Can we feed the ducks?" "We can feed all the ducks." He promised, kissing her forehead. "Now, get some more sleep." As he closed her bedroom door behind him, Marcus caught his reflection in the hallway mirror. 35 years old, but he looked older. The war had aged him carved lines into his face that told stories he'd never share with anyone, especially not Lily. His shoulders, once proudly squared in military bearing, now slumped with the weight of civilian struggles. The bronze star and purple heart hidden in a box under his bed meant nothing when facing overdue rent notices and medical bills. He grabbed his janitor's uniform from the closet. Navy blue pants and a matching shirt with Marcus embroidered on the pocket. It was a far cry from the Army Ranger's uniform he'd once worn with pride, but it paid the bills. Barely. The bus ride to the mall was the same as always. Marcus sat in the back watching the city wake up through grimy windows. He recognized some of the other early morning workers, the woman who worked at the coffee shop, the security guard from the bank, all of them grinding through another day in the endless cycle of making ends meet. Nobody talked. Everyone was lost in their own struggles, their own silent battles. Westfield Shopping Center was already buzzing with activity when Marcus arrived. The early morning joggers were finishing their laps around the indoor track on the second floor, and the food court vendors were firing up their grills, filling the air with the smell of bacon and coffee. Marcus grabbed his supplies from the janitor's closet mop bucket cleaning solutions and began his routine. "Morning, Marcus," called out Janet, who ran the pretzel stand. She was one of the few people who actually knew his name, who saw him as more than just the invisible man pushing a mop. "Morning, Janet," he replied with a genuine smile. "How's your grandson?" "Growing like a weed, starting Little League next month." She handed him a fresh pretzel still warm from the oven. "On the house. You're too skinny." "You don't have to." "I know I don't have to. I want to. Now take it before I change my mind." Marcus accepted this pretzel gratefully. These small kindnesses meant more than Janet would ever know. They reminded him that he still existed, that he wasn't completely invisible. As he worked his way through the mall's main corridor, Marcus observed the Saturday morning crowd beginning to thicken. Families with excited children heading to the toy store, teenagers clustering around the electronic shops, elderly couples taking their morning walks in the climate-controlled comfort. He'd become an expert, at reading people over the months he'd worked here, a skill honed during his years in military intelligence. He could spot the shoplifters before they acted, the couples on the verge of arguments, the lost children seconds before they started crying. It was nearly noon when Marcus noticed them, a woman and a young girl sitting at a table in the food court. The woman was everything Marcus wasn't: polished, successful, radiating the kind of confidence that came from never having to check your bank balance before buying groceries. She wore a designer suit even on a Saturday, her hair perfectly styled, her jewelry understated but obviously expensive. She was typing furiously on her laptop while talking on her phone, occasionally glancing at the little girl across from her. The child couldn't have been more than 7, with glossy black hair pulled into pigtails and tied with pink ribbons that matched her dress. She was coloring in a book, her tongue poking out in concentration, occasionally looking up at her mother with big, hopeful eyes. Marcus recognized that look. It was the same one Lily gave him when she wanted attention, when she wanted to share something exciting from her day, but knew her parent was too busy, too stressed, too overwhelmed by adult problems to fully engage. "Emma, sweetie, please eat your lunch," the woman said between phone calls, not looking up from her screen. "Mommy, look, I drew a butterfly." Emma held up her coloring book. "That's nice, honey. Very pretty. Now please eat your sandwich. Mommy has to finish this report." Marcus felt a pang of sympathy for both of them. He recognized the struggle of the working parent trying to balance impossible demands, trying to be everything to everyone, and usually feeling like you were failing at all of it. He'd been there, was still there, every single day. He was mopping near their table when he heard the woman's phone conversation escalate. "No, Richard? That's not acceptable. The merger documents clearly state—" She paused, listening, her face growing more frustrated. "I don't care what the Tokyo office says. I'm the CEO of Chen Industries, and I'm telling you that we're not moving forward without those guarantees." Chen Industries. Marcus knew the name, everyone in the city did. Victoria Chen had built her company from nothing into a multi-billion-dollar empire. She was regularly featured in business magazines, hailed as a self-made success story, a beacon of American entrepreneurship. And here she was, just another stressed parent trying to juggle work and family on a Saturday afternoon. "Excuse me, sir," a small voice said. Marcus looked down to find Emma standing beside him holding a crayon. "Yes, sweetheart," he said, leaning on his mop. "You dropped this," she said, offering him the crayon, though Marcus knew he hadn't dropped anything. He accepted it with a smile. "Thank you very much. That was very kind of you." Emma beamed. "My mommy says we should always help people. She helps lots of people with her company. She gives them jobs and builds hospitals and schools." "Your mommy sounds like a wonderful person," Marcus said sincerely. "She is, but she works a lot. Sometimes I wish—" Emma trailed off, looking back at her mother, who was now standing pacing while she talked, her voice rising. "What do you wish?" Marcus asked gently. "I wish she could just be my mommy, sometimes, not the boss of everything." Before Marcus could respond, Victoria ended her call and noticed Emma talking to him. "Emma, come back here, please. Don't bother the man while he's working." "He's not bothered, Mommy. He's nice." Victoria gave Marcus an apologetic look. "I'm sorry if she was in your way." "Not at all, ma'am. She's a delightful young lady, very polite." Victoria's expression softened slightly. "Thank you. Emma, come finish your lunch." As Emma skipped back to the table, she turned and waved at Marcus. He waved back, then returned to his work, pushing his cart toward the fountain at the center of the food court. That's when everything changed. The first sign of trouble was a commotion near the mall's main entrance. Marcus heard shouting, then screaming. His military instincts kicked in immediately. He abandoned his mop bucket and moved toward the noise, his body automatically shifting into a tactical stance he hadn't used in years. A masked figure burst into the food court wielding a handgun. The man was clearly agitated, his movements erratic, the gun waving wildly as he shouted incoherently about justice, about being ignored, about making them all pay attention. Chaos erupted instantly. People screamed, tables overturned as families scrambled for cover. The sound of shattering dishes and crying children filled the air. Marcus's training took over, assess the threat. Identify civilians at risk, determine the best course of action. The gunman was moving deeper into the food court, his weapon sweeping across the terrified crowd. Marcus could see mall security approaching from the far end, but they were too far away, moving too slowly. They wouldn't make it in time. "Everyone get down!" the gunman screamed. "All of you rich people thinking you're better than everyone else, you never see us, never care about us." "Well, you're going to see me now." Marcus recognized the voice, the desperation in it. This wasn't a professional criminal or a terrorist. This was someone who'd been pushed too far, someone who'd snapped under the pressure of being invisible, forgotten, dismissed. He'd seen it before in soldiers coming back from war to find their country had moved on without them, and veterans struggling to find their place in a civilian world that didn't understand their sacrifice. The gunman's erratic path was bringing him closer to where Victoria and Emma had been sitting. Marcus spotted them. Victoria had grabbed Emma, trying to shield her behind an overturned table, but their position was exposed. The gunman was heading straight for them. "You!" The gunman pointed at Victoria, recognizing her. "I know you. You're that CEO. You fired 300 people last month. My brother was one of them. 20 years he gave your company, and you threw him away like garbage." Victoria held Emma tighter, her face pale but determined. "Please, whatever grievance you have, we can talk about it. Just put the gun down. There are children here." "Children," the gunman laughed bitterly. "You think I care about children? Did you care about my brother's children when you took away their father's job? When you destroyed our family?" Marcus was moving now, using the chaos as cover, positioning himself between the gunman and the nearest groups of civilians. His mind was calculating angles, distances, probabilities, all the tactical mathematics that had kept him alive in Afghanistan. Emma was crying now, her face buried in her mother's shoulder, but something made her look up, and through her tears she saw Marcus approaching. Their eyes met, and he tried to convey reassurance, tried to tell her without words that it would be okay. The gunman raised his weapon, pointing it directly at Victoria and Emma. "Maybe you'll understand loss when you experience it yourself." Time slowed to a crawl. Marcus saw the gunman's finger tighten on the trigger. He saw Victoria trying to turn her body to shield Emma completely. He saw Emma's balloon, a pink one she'd been carrying, float up between them like some surreal detail in a nightmare. There was no time to think, only to act. Marcus's body moved on pure instinct, years of training overriding every self-preservation impulse. He launched himself forward, crossing the 10 feet between him and Emma in what seemed like a single heartbeat. The gun fired. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space, echoing off the mall's high ceiling like thunder. Marcus felt the impact before he felt the pain, a punch to his left side that spun him slightly as he wrapped his arms around Emma, pulling her down and away from the line of fire. For a moment there was absolute silence. Then the screaming started again, louder this time. Marcus was on his knees, one arm still protectively around Emma, the other pressed to his side, where he could feel warm wetness spreading across his janitor's uniform. "You're safe now, sweetheart," he managed to say to Emma, his voice surprisingly steady despite the fire spreading through his torso. "You're safe." Mall security finally arrived, tackling the gunman, who seemed shocked by what had just happened, the gun falling from his limp fingers. Chaos swirled around them, but Marcus kept his focus on Emma's terrified face. "Are you hurt?" Victoria was suddenly there, her hands checking Emma frantically. "Baby, are you hurt?" "The man saved me, Mommy," Emma sobbed. "He jumped in front of me." Victoria's eyes moved to Marcus, and he saw the recognition dawn on her face, not just of what had happened, but of who he was. The janitor she'd seen countless times, but never really noticed the invisible man who'd just taken a bullet meant for her daughter. "Oh my God," she breathed, seeing the blood. "Someone call an ambulance, now." Marcus tried to stand, but couldn't. The pain was getting worse, and he could feel himself getting dizzy. Victoria caught him as he swayed, lowering him gently to the floor. "Why?" she asked, tears streaming down her face. "Why would you do that? You don't even know us." Marcus looked at Emma, who was clutching her mother but staring at him with those big, frightened eyes. He thought of Lily safe at home with Mrs. Rodriguez, probably watching cartoons and eating cereal for lunch. He thought of all the mornings he'd stood in her doorway watching her sleep, knowing he'd do anything to keep her safe. "She's someone's baby," he said simply. "Someone's whole world." Victoria pressed her hands against his wound, trying to stop the bleeding. Her expensive suit was ruined, covered in his blood, but she didn't seem to notice or care. "Stay with us. Help is coming. Please just stay with us." People were gathering around them now. Marcus heard someone say his name, Janet, from the pretzel stand, her voice high with panic. Others were asking who he was, what had happened. He could hear sirens in the distance getting closer. "Mommy, is he going to die?" Emma asked in a small voice. "No, baby. No, he's going to be fine. He's a hero, and heroes don't die." Marcus wanted to laugh at that. He'd known plenty of heroes who died, had held some of them in his arms as they took their last breaths in Afghan deserts and mountains. But he didn't say that. Instead, he reached out with a shaky hand and touched Emma's shoe, a little pink sneaker with unicorns on it. "You be good for your mom, okay?" he said. "And remember that you're brave. I could see it in your eyes. You're brave like your mom." The paramedics arrived then, immediately taking over from Victoria. They worked with practiced efficiency, cutting away his uniform, starting IVs, preparing him for transport. Through it all, Marcus kept his eyes on Emma and Victoria, drawing strength from their presence. "Sir, can you tell me your name?" one of the paramedics asked. "Marcus Thompson," he managed. "Marcus, you're going to be okay. We're taking you to General Hospital. Is there anyone we should call?" "My daughter, Lily. She's with a neighbor." He recited Mrs. Rodriguez's number, fighting to stay conscious. Tell her Daddy's going to be late for dinner." As they lifted him onto the stretcher, Marcus heard someone in the crowd say, "Wait, Marcus Thompson, isn't that the guy who—" "Oh my God, I remember now. He was in the news a few years ago. Something about Afghanistan, a Medal of Honor nomination." But Marcus didn't hear the rest. The edges of his vision were going dark, and the last thing he saw before unconsciousness took him was Victoria Chen holding her daughter tight, both of them watching as he was wheeled away. Their faces a mixture of gratitude, shock, and something else, recognition that sometimes heroes come in the most unexpected forms. The mall fell into an eerie quiet after the ambulance left. Police tape cordoned off the food court, investigators photographed the scene, and witnesses gave their statements. But at the center of it all, a small pool of blood marked the spot where a janitor everyone had ignored had made a split-second decision that revealed the true measure of a man. Victoria stood there long after she'd given her statement, long after Emma had been checked by paramedics and declared physically unharmed. She stared at that blood on the floor, Marcus Thompson's blood shed for her daughter, and felt something fundamental shift inside her. "Ma'am." A police detective approached her. "We've done some checking on Mr. Thompson. I thought you should know. He's not just a janitor." Victoria looked up, wiping tears she hadn't realized were still falling. "What do you mean?" The detective handed her his phone, showing a military service record. Staff Sergeant Marcus Thompson, 75th Ranger Regiment. Served 3 tours in Afghanistan. Bronze Star, with Valor Purple Heart Army Commendation Medal with Valor Device. He was nominated for the Medal of Honor after he saved 6 members of his unit during an ambush, taking multiple rounds in the process. He spent 8 months in Walter Reed recovering from his injuries. Victoria read the record, her hands shaking. Why is he working as a janitor? With a record like this, he could— "That's the thing about heroes, ma'am," the detective said softly. "They don't always get the recognition they deserve when they come home. They just blend back in, become invisible, keep serving in whatever way they can." Emma tugged on her mother's hand. "Mommy, we have to go see him. We have to make sure he's okay." Victoria looked down at her daughter, seeing something new in her eyes, an understanding that the world was both more dangerous and more beautiful than she'd known, that ordinary people could do extraordinary things, that heroes walked among them every day, invisible, until the moment they were needed most. "Yes, baby," Victoria said, pulling Emma close. "We're going to see him, and we're going to make sure he knows he's not invisible anymore." As they left the mall, Victoria made a series of phone calls. To her assistant, to her board of directors, to the best doctors in the city. Marcus Thompson had saved her daughter's life, had revealed through his sacrifice the kind of man he truly was. She wouldn't let that sacrifice be forgotten, wouldn't let him fade back into invisibility when he recovered. Because that's what heroes did. They saved people, changed lives, reminded others what real courage looked like. And sometimes, if the world was paying attention, they got the recognition they deserved all along. The afternoon sun was setting over the city as Victoria's car pulled away from Westfield Shopping Center. In the back seat, Emma clutched her pink balloon miraculously still intact and asked her mother a question that would echo in Victoria's mind for days to come. "Mommy, do you think there are other heroes out there that we don't see?" Victoria thought of all the invisible people she passed every day: the janitors, the security guards, the bus drivers, the countless workers who kept the world running while people like her rushed past without a second glance. "Yes, baby," she said softly. "I think there are heroes everywhere. We just have to learn how to see them." As their car disappeared into the evening traffic, the mall slowly returned to normal. Shops reopened, customers returned, life went on. But for those who had witnessed what happened that day, something had changed. They looked at the janitor's cart still sitting by the fountain, abandoned in Marcus's rush to save a life, and they understood that heroism wasn't about wearing a uniform or carrying a badge. Sometimes heroism was just a father who understood what it meant to protect someone else's child, an invisible man who became visible in the moment when visibility mattered most, a reminder that courage isn't the absence of fear, but the decision that someone else is more important than that fear. The blood was cleaned from the food court floor, but the memory of what happened there would remain a testament to the extraordinary courage of an ordinary man who proved that heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they wear janitors' uniforms and push mop buckets, waiting for the moment when the world needs them to be more than invisible. Sometimes they're just fathers who understand that every child deserves a chance to make it home. The sterile smell of the hospital hit Victoria like a physical force as she pushed through the emergency room doors. Emma's small hand clutched tightly in hers. They'd been directed to the surgical wing where Marcus had been taken, and every step felt like walking through quicksand, heavy with the weight of what had just happened. "Mrs. Chen," a young resident approached them, his scrubs wrinkled from what had clearly been a long shift. "I'm Dr. Patel. You're here about Mr. Thompson." "Yes," Victoria said quickly. "How is he? Is he going to be all right?" Dr. Patel's expression was carefully neutral, the practiced face of someone who delivered difficult news regularly. "He's in surgery now. The bullet did significant damage. It punctured his lung and nicked an artery. Dr. Harrison is our best trauma surgeon, and she's working on him now. But I won't lie to you, it's serious." Emma tugged on her mother's dress. "Can we see him?" "Not yet, sweetheart, Doctor," Patel said kindly, crouching down to Emma's level. "The doctors are taking very good care of him right now. But you can wait in the family lounge, and we'll let you know as soon as there's news." Victoria nodded, but before they could move toward the waiting area, there was a commotion at the emergency entrance. A little girl, no older than Emma, burst through the doors, followed by an elderly Hispanic woman who was clearly struggling to keep up. "Where's my daddy?" the girl cried out, her voice high with panic. "Where's my daddy? Someone said he got hurt." Victoria's heart clenched. This had to be Lily Marcus's daughter. The resemblance was unmistakable, the same determined jaw, the same deep brown eyes, though hers were filled with tears. "Lily mija, slow down," the elderly woman called, breathing heavily. "We need to find out where—" "Are you Mrs. Rodriguez?" Victoria interrupted, stepping forward. The woman looked at her suspiciously. "Yes. Who are you?" "I'm Victoria Chen. This is my daughter Emma. Marcus saved Emma's life today. He was protecting her when he got shot." Mrs. Rodriguez's hand flew to her mouth. "Dios mío. Marcus, he's such a good man, always helping everyone, never thinking of himself." She pulled Lily closer. "This is his daughter, Lily. I watch her when he works." Lily was staring at Emma with those intense brown eyes. "Your daddy saved her?" she asked Victoria, her voice small and confused. "No, sweetheart," Victoria said gently, kneeling down. "Your daddy saved her. Your daddy is a hero." "He's always been a hero," Lily said matter-of-factly, wiping her nose with her sleeve. "He was a hero in the war, too. He doesn't like to talk about it, but I've seen his medals. He keeps them in a box under his bed." The four of them moved to the surgical waiting room, a sterile space with uncomfortable chairs and a television playing the news on mute. Victoria couldn't sit still. She paced while Emma and Lily sat together, the two girls eyeing each other warily, at first then gradually beginning to talk. "Does your daddy work at the mall all the time?" Emma asked. Lily nodded. He works there and at an office building at night sometimes. He says we need to save money for my college fund. She paused, then added quietly, I told him I don't need to go to college, but he says education is important. He was going to go to college after the army, but then my mommy got sick. Victoria stopped pacing, listening. What happened to your mommy? Emma asked with the innocent directness of children. She went to heaven when I was 4. Daddy says she was sick for a long time, and the medicine was really expensive. That's why we don't have a lot of money now, but Daddy says that's okay because we have each other. Victoria felt tears burning her eyes. She pulled out her phone and stepped into the hallway, dialing her assistant. Jennifer, I need you to do something for me immediately, she said when her assistant answered. I want you to pull all the information you can find on Marcus Thompson, employment history, financial records, everything. And I want our best lawyers ready to set up a trust fund. Is everything all right, Ms. Chen? I heard about what happened at the mall. A man saved Emma's life today, Jennifer. A man who's been invisible to people like us for far too long. That changes now. When she returned to the waiting room, she found Mrs. Rodriguez sitting with both girls, telling them a story in a mix of English and Spanish. The elderly woman looked up at Victoria with knowing eyes. You didn't know him before today, did you? Mrs. Rodriguez asked. Victoria shook her head ashamed. He worked at the mall. I must have seen him 100 times, but I never really saw him. That's Marcus, Mrs. Rodriguez said softly. He prefers it that way. Says he had enough attention in the army, enough people looking at him. Now he just wants to take care of Lily, give her a good life. Tell me about him, Victoria said, sitting down. Please. Mrs. Rodriguez smiled sadly. I've known Marcus since he moved into the apartment next door 3 years ago. Just him and little Lily, both of them so lost after Sarah died. Sarah was his wife, beautiful girl, smart as a whip. She was a teacher before she got sick, brain cancer. They fought it for 2 years, tried everything, but she shook her head. Marcus sold everything they had to pay for treatments, their house, their car, even his medals at one point, though. I made him go get them back. Said Lily would want them someday. His medals? Oh yes. Marcus was quite the soldier. He doesn't talk about it, but I've looked him up on the computer at the library. 3 tours in Afghanistan. Led his squad through some of the worst fighting. The day he got hurt, the one that got him nominated for that big medal, he saved 6 of his men. Carried them out one by one under fire even after he'd been shot 3 times. Victoria felt sick. This man, this hero, had been mopping floors at her mall while she walked past in her designer heels, never giving him a second thought. Why didn't he get help from the VA? There must be programs. Mrs. Rodriguez laughed bitterly. You think he didn't try? The waiting lists are months long. The benefits barely cover anything. And Marcus, he's proud. Too proud sometimes. He says he's seen guys worse off than him, guys who need the help more. So he works. 2, sometimes 3 jobs. Every penny goes to Lily or to paying off Sarah's medical bills. Medical bills. But if she passed away 3 years ago, $500,000 even with insurance. The experimental treatments weren't covered. Marcus is still paying it off, will be for years. But he says it was worth it because it gave them 2 more years together, gave Lily more time with her mother. Before Victoria could respond, Dr. Harrison appeared in the doorway. She was a tall woman with graying hair pulled back in a surgical cap, her scrubs showing spots of blood. Family of Marcus Thompson. Both Victoria and Mrs. Rodriguez stood, but it was Lily who ran forward. Is my daddy okay? Dr. Harrison's expression softened. Your daddy is a very strong man. We've repaired the damage to his lung and stopped the bleeding. He's stable now, but the next 24 hours are critical. He's not out of the woods yet. Can I see him? Lily asked, her voice breaking. He's being moved to the ICU now. Once he's settled, you can see him for a few minutes, but he's unconscious and will likely remain that way for several hours, possibly days. His body needs time to heal. Victoria stepped forward. Doctor, I want him to have the best care possible. Money is no object. Whatever he needs, private room specialists, anything. Dr. Harrison looked at her curiously. Are you family? He saved my daughter's life, Victoria said firmly. That makes him family. An hour later, they were allowed into the ICU. Marcus lay in the hospital bed, looking smaller, somehow diminished by the machines keeping him alive. Tubes and wires connected him to monitors that beeped steadily, marking each heartbeat, each breath. His face was pale, almost gray, and his chest rose and fell with mechanical assistance from the ventilator. Lily approached the bed slowly, as if afraid she might break something. She reached out and touched his hand gently. "Daddy," she whispered. "Daddy, it's me. It's Lily. Mrs. Rodriguez is here, and Emma and her mommy too. The girl you saved. She's really nice, Daddy. I think you'd like her." Marcus didn't respond, but Lily kept talking, her voice stronger now. "I'm being brave, Daddy, just like you taught me. Remember when you said that being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you do what's right, even when you are scared. That's what you did today, isn't it? You were brave for Emma." Victoria had to turn away, unable to watch without crying. Emma came over and hugged her mother's leg. "Mommy, is Mr. Marcus going to wake up?" "I hope so, baby. I really hope so." They stayed until visiting hours ended, then Victoria insisted on putting Mrs. Rodriguez and Lily up in a hotel near the hospital. Lily protested. At first Marcus had taught her not to accept charity, but Victoria wouldn't hear it. "This isn't charity," Victoria said firmly. "This is gratitude. Your father gave me something I can never repay my daughter's life. Please let me do this small thing." That night, as Victoria lay in her own bed with Emma curled up beside her, the little girl had been too frightened to sleep alone. She couldn't stop thinking about Marcus Thompson. She'd built an empire, commanded boardrooms, negotiated billion-dollar deals, but she'd never shown the kind of courage Marcus had displayed without thinking, without hesitation. Her phone rang at 3 in the morning. Her heart stopped thinking it was the hospital, but it was Jennifer, her assistant. "Ms. Chen, I'm sorry to call so late, but you said you wanted information immediately. I found some things about Mr. Thompson that I think you should know." "Go ahead." After his wife died, Marcus applied for several jobs in security, law enforcement, even corporate positions that would utilize his military experience. He was turned down for all of them. "Do you want to know why?" Victoria sat up. "Why?" PTSD on his medical records from the VA. The moment employers saw that they passed. It didn't matter that his PTSD was managed, that he'd never had a single incident. The stigma was enough. That's illegal. They can't discriminate. They can't say that's why they didn't hire him, but we both know how these things work. Marcus Thompson, decorated war hero, was deemed too much of a liability for a desk job, but perfectly fine to clean toilets and mop floors. Victoria felt rage building in her chest. What else? His wife Sarah was a teacher at PS 84, one of the inner-city schools. Beloved by everyone, apparently. When she got sick, the whole community tried to help, but the medical bills were astronomical. Marcus refinanced their house, twice maxed out credit cards, even started a GoFundMe that raised $30,000, nowhere near enough. After Sarah died, he lost the house to foreclosure. And his family. Surely someone... Both parents deceased. He has a sister in Seattle, but she's a single mother of 3, barely making it herself. Sarah's parents are elderly, living on Social Security. There was no one to help. Victoria hung up and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow she decided things would change. Marcus Thompson had been invisible long enough. The next morning brought good news. Marcus was breathing on his own, though still unconscious. The doctors were cautiously optimistic. Victoria arrived at the hospital to find Lily already there, having walked the 6 blocks from the hotel, despite Mrs. Rodriguez's protests. "I needed to be here when he wakes up," Lily explained simply. They sat vigil together, Victoria and Emma Lily and Mrs. Rodriguez. Other people began arriving too. Janet from the pretzel stand brought food. The security guards from the mall stopped by on their breaks. Even some of the other janitors came, men and women who worked alongside Marcus, who knew him as more than just the hero in the news. "Marcus always covered for me when my kid was sick." One of them, a young woman named Maria, told Victoria. "Never complained, never asked for anything in return, just said that's what people do for each other." "He taught my son to tie his shoes," another added. "Saw him struggling with it in the food court one day and just sat down and spent 20 minutes teaching him. My boy still talks about the nice man who helped him." Story after story emerged, painting a picture of a man who had been performing small acts of heroism long before he'd thrown himself in front of a bullet. Victoria realized that Marcus hadn't become a hero yesterday, he'd always been one. They just hadn't been paying attention. On the second day, the media found out who Marcus really was. The story exploded across news channels, and social media forgotten war hero saves CEO's daughter. Suddenly, everyone wanted to know about Marcus Thompson. Reporters camped outside the hospital. Military officials started making statements. The governor's office called. Victoria held a press conference to try to control the narrative, Emma standing beside her. Marcus Thompson represents the best of us, she said into the microphones. A man who served his country with distinction, who came home to face challenges that would break most people, and who still found the courage to put others before himself. He's been invisible to people like me for too long, but that ends now. She announced the Marcus Thompson Foundation, funded with an initial donation of $5 million from her personal wealth, dedicated to helping veterans transition to civilian life, find meaningful employment, and access the services they'd earned. We ask our soldiers to be heroes overseas, Victoria said, her voice strong despite the tears on her cheeks. The least we can do is see them, truly see them, when they come home. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Donations poured in. Job offers for Marcus arrived from dozens of companies. The VA suddenly found ways to expedite his claims. The mayor announced a ceremony to honor him. But all of it meant nothing if Marcus didn't wake up. It was Lily who was with him when he finally opened his eyes on the third day. Victoria and Emma had gone to get coffee, and Mrs. Rodriguez was dozing in her chair. Lily was reading to him from her favorite book, the one about a brave knight who saved a kingdom, when she heard a soft groan. "Daddy?" Marcus's eyes fluttered open, unfocused at first, then settling on his daughter's face. "Lily," he whispered, his voice hoarse from the ventilator. "Daddy." Lily threw herself forward, then caught herself remembering his injuries. "You're awake. You're okay." "Hey, baby girl." Marcus managed, raising a shaky hand to touch her face. "Why are you crying?" "Because you almost died," Lily sobbed. "You saved that girl, and you almost died, and I was so scared." "Shh, it's okay. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." Mrs. Rodriguez woke at the commotion and immediately called for the nurses. Within minutes, the room was full of medical staff checking vitals, adjusting medications, asking Marcus questions to assess his cognitive function. When Victoria and Emma returned, they found Marcus sitting up, slightly looking tired but alert. Emma immediately hid behind her mother, suddenly shy in the presence of the man who'd saved her life. "Mr. Thompson," Victoria began, but Marcus held up a hand. "Just Marcus, please. Mr. Thompson was my father." "Marcus, then. I don't know how to thank you. What you did..." "I did what anyone would do," Marcus said simply. "No," Victoria said firmly. "No, you did what you would do, what a hero would do. And I've learned that's who you've always been, even when nobody was watching. Especially when nobody was watching." Marcus looked uncomfortable with the praise. "I was just doing my job." "Your job was to clean floors, not take bullets for strangers." "My job," Marcus said, meeting her eyes, "has always been to protect people. That didn't change when I took off the uniform." Emma finally stepped out from behind her mother. She was clutching something in her small hands, a drawing she'd made while Marcus was unconscious. It showed a stick figure in blue, Marcus standing between a little girl and a scary monster, with "My Hero" written in crayon across the top. "I made this for you," she said shyly, approaching the bed. Marcus took the drawing with trembling hands, studying it like it was the Mona Lisa. "This is beautiful, Emma. Thank you. I'm going to keep this forever." "Really? Really? Heroes need reminders of why they fight, and this is the best reminder I could ask for." Lily climbed onto the bed, carefully curling into her father's uninjured side. "Daddy, there's been people here. Lots of people. They all want to help us." Marcus frowned, looking at Victoria. "What's she talking about?" Victoria took a deep breath. "The world knows who you are now, Marcus. What you did, what you've always done. And people want to help. Job offers medical bill assistance, a fund for Lily's education." "No," Marcus said immediately. "I don't want charity. I didn't do this for it." "Stop," Victoria interrupted. "Just stop. This isn't charity. This is recognition. This is gratitude. This is the world finally seeing you for who you are and wanting to give back a fraction of what you've given. I don't need... Yes, you do. You need and you deserve it. Your daughter deserves it. Sarah would want you to accept it. The mention of his late wife made Marcus pause. He looked down at Lily, who was watching him with those big brown eyes that reminded him so much of Sarah. "What would Mommy say, Daddy?" Lily asked softly. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "She'd say that pride is a luxury we can't afford when it comes to taking care of the people we love." "Then you'll accept help." Marcus nodded slowly. "For Lily." "I'll accept it for Lily." But Victoria wasn't done. "There's more. I've spoken to my board. Chen Industries wants to offer you a position as head of our Veteran Affairs Division. You'd be responsible for implementing hiring programs for veterans, ensuring they get real opportunities, not just empty, thanks for their service. I don't have a degree. I don't have corporate experience. You have something more valuable. You have lived experience. You know what veterans need because you've been there. You know where the system fails because you've fallen through those cracks. We need someone like you, Marcus. I need someone like you." Before Marcus could respond, there was a knock at the door. A man in a crisp military uniform entered. Colonel James Mitchell according to his name tag. "Staff Sergeant Thompson," he said, saluting. "I'm here on behalf of the Secretary of Defense. We've reviewed your actions at the mall in light of your previous service record. It's been determined that your Medal of Honor nomination from Afghanistan should be reopened and expedited." Marcus shook his head. "Sir, I don't need..." "This isn't about what you need, Sergeant. It's about what you've earned, what you should have received years ago. Your actions at the mall only confirm what we should have recognized. Then that you represent the very best of what it means to be a soldier and an American." The colonel placed a folder on the bedside table. "The ceremony will be in 3 months, assuming you're recovered by then. The president will present the medal personally." After the colonel left the room, was quiet. Marcus stared at the folder like it might bite him. He'd never wanted medals, never wanted recognition. He just wanted to serve, to protect, to come home to his family. "Daddy," Lily said softly, "Mommy would be so proud." That broke him. Marcus pulled his daughter close and cried for Sarah, for all the struggles of the past 3 years, for the unexpected turn his life had taken. Victoria and Emma stepped out to give them privacy, but not before Victoria squeezed his shoulder. "You're not invisible anymore, Marcus," she said softly, "and you never will be again." Over the next weeks, as Marcus recovered, the story continued to evolve. The man who'd shot him, Robert Henley, was revealed to be the brother of one of the workers laid off from Chen Industries. But in a twist that surprised everyone, Marcus asked to meet with him. "Why?" Victoria asked, incredulous. "He tried to kill you." "He was in pain," Marcus said simply. "Desperate. I've seen what that does to people. I've been there myself. If I can forgive him, maybe he can start to forgive himself." The meeting was emotional. Robert broke down apologizing over and over. Marcus listened, then spoke about his own struggles, his own moments of desperation after Sarah died, after the world seemed to stop making sense. "The difference between us," Marcus said, "is that I had Lily. I had a reason to keep fighting. You lost that reason when your brother spiraled after losing his job. I understand that, but you have to find a new reason now, a better way forward." Robert was sentenced to 15 years but would be eligible for parole in 7 with good behavior. Marcus promised to speak on his behalf if he used the time to get help to become better. It was an act of grace that stunned everyone, but to Marcus it was simple. Everyone deserved a second chance. The mall reopening was scheduled for 2 weeks after Marcus was released from the hospital. Victoria had insisted he be there for the ceremony, though Marcus was reluctant about all the attention. He stood in his new suit Victoria had insisted on, that too feeling uncomfortable and out of place. "You look handsome, Daddy," Lily said, straightening his tie. She was wearing a new dress, the first one that wasn't from a thrift store in years. "You think so?" "I know so. You look like a hero." "Heroes don't always wear suits, baby." "I know," Lily said wisely. "Sometimes they wear janitor uniforms." The ceremony was bigger than Marcus had expected. The mayor was there along with various city officials. The media was present in force. But what touched Marcus most were the ordinary people, the mall workers, the shop owners, the regular customers who had written letters and sent cards while he was in the hospital. Victoria gave a speech about heroism, about seeing the invisible among us, about the courage that walks past us every day unrecognized. She announced that the mall would be implementing a veteran hiring program, that the food court would be renamed the Marcus Thompson Pavilion, that his actions would never be forgotten. When it was Marcus's turn to speak, he stood at the podium looking out at the crowd, and for a moment he was back in Afghanistan about to lead his squad on patrol. The fear was the same, the weight of responsibility just as heavy. "I'm not good at speeches," he began, his voice quiet but steady. "I'm better at action than words. But Ms. Chen asked me to say something, so I'll try." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "People keep calling me a hero for what I did that day. But the truth is, I wasn't being a hero. I was being a father. I saw a child in danger, and I did what any parent would do. I protected her. The fact that she wasn't my child didn't matter in that moment. She was someone's everything, just like my Lily is my everything." He looked at Emma, who was standing with her mother. "Emma, you asked me once why I helped you. The answer is simple: because you matter. Your life matters. Every life matters. That's what I learned in the army, what my wife Sarah taught me, what I try to teach Lily every day." He shifted, uncomfortable with the attention, but pushing through. "If there's anything I want people to take from this, it's not that I'm special. It's that there are thousands of men and women like me who come home from serving their country and just want to continue serving in whatever way they can. We become janitors and security guards and bus drivers. We're invisible, but we're here still standing watch, still ready to protect and serve." He looked directly at Victoria. "Thank you for seeing me, not just for what I did that day, but for who I am, who we all are. That's the real gift you've given me, not the job or the medical care or the attention, but the recognition that we're still here, still valuable, still needed." The applause was thunderous. Marcus stepped back from the podium, wanting nothing more than to disappear, but Lily grabbed one hand and Emma grabbed the other, and together they stood there, the janitor's daughter and the CEO's daughter, united by an act of courage that had changed all their lives. As the crowd began to disperse, Marcus found himself standing with Victoria near the fountain where everything had happened. The bullet hole had been repaired, the blood cleaned away, but the memory remained. "You know what the strangest part is?" Marcus said quietly. "What's that? I've been in combat. I've been in firefights where bullets were flying everywhere. But that moment in the mall, seeing the gun pointed at Emma, that was the most scared I've ever been." "Why?" "Because in combat, we were all soldiers. We knew the risks. But Emma, she was just a little girl with a pink balloon. She wasn't supposed to be in danger. Children aren't supposed to be in danger." Victoria touched his arm gently. "But she was, and you saved her. You gave me back my daughter." "And you gave me back my life," Marcus replied. "Not just the job or the help, but the purpose. For 3 years I've been going through the motions, just surviving for Lily. Now I feel like I have a mission again." "What mission?" "To make sure no veteran feels invisible. To make sure they all have the chances I didn't have until now. To make sure their sacrifices are seen and valued." Victoria smiled. "Well, you'll have all the resources of Chen Industries behind you. We're going to change things, Marcus. We're going to make sure no hero goes unseen again." As they stood there, Lily and Emma ran up laughing about something they'd seen in the toy store. The two girls had become fast friends in the weeks since the shooting, bonded by the strange circumstances that had brought their families together. "Daddy, can Emma come to our apartment for dinner?" Lily asked. "I want to show her my books." Marcus looked at Victoria, who nodded. "If it's not too much trouble." "It's no trouble," Marcus said, then paused. "Though I should warn you, our apartment it's not what you're used to." "Marcus," Victoria said firmly, "your apartment is where you and Lily made a home despite everything life threw at you. That makes it more valuable than any mansion." That evening, in the small one-bedroom apartment that Marcus had been so ashamed of, two families shared a simple meal of spaghetti and garlic bread. Lily showed Emma her treasures, her father's medals, photos of her mother, the books they read together every night. Emma, who had every toy imaginable, was fascinated by the stories behind each item, the history they represented. "Your daddy is really brave," Emma told Lily as they sat on the floor coloring together. Your mommy's really nice, Lily replied. She helped my daddy when nobody else would. Maybe they can be friends now, Emma suggested. Maybe, Lily agreed, then added with the wisdom of a child who'd seen too much too young. Sometimes the worst things that happen can lead to the best things. My daddy says that's called a silver lining. In the kitchen, Marcus and Victoria cleaned dishes together, a strangely domestic scene after everything that had happened. Thank you for this, Victoria said quietly, for letting us into your home, your life. Thank you for not letting me disappear again, Marcus replied. For the first time in 3 years, I feel like I can breathe, like maybe things will be okay. They will be, Victoria said with certainty. We'll make sure of it, together. As the evening ended and Victoria and Emma prepared to leave, Marcus stood at his apartment door watching them walk to their car. Lily waved from the window until they were out of sight. Daddy, Lily said, turning to him with serious eyes. I think Mommy sent them to us. What makes you say that? Because Mommy always said angels come in different forms. Maybe Emma and her mommy are our angels. Marcus pulled his daughter close, thinking about the strange paths life takes, the unexpected ways grace enters our lives. He'd lost so much: his wife, his career, his sense of purpose. But in saving Emma, he'd found something new, not a replacement for what was lost, but a different kind of family, a different kind of purpose, a different kind of hope. Maybe you're right, baby, he said, kissing the top of her head. Maybe you're right. Outside, the city hummed with its usual nighttime rhythm. But in a small apartment in a forgotten corner of town, a hero and his daughter settled in for the night, no longer invisible, no longer alone, no longer without hope. The future stretched before them, uncertain, but no longer dark, full of possibilities that had seemed impossible just weeks before. Marcus tucked Lily into bed, the same ritual they'd performed every night since Sarah died. But tonight felt different. Daddy, Lily said sleepily, are you happy? Marcus considered the question. Happy seemed too simple a word for what he felt. He was grateful, hopeful, purposeful things he hadn't felt in so long he'd forgotten they were possible. I'm getting there, baby, he said honestly. I'm getting there. Good, Lily murmured, already drifting off. Because heroes deserve to be happy too. As Marcus stood in her doorway, watching her sleep like he did every night, he thought about the journey that had brought them here. From the battlefields of Afghanistan to the halls of a shopping mall, from invisible janitor to recognized hero, from despair to hope. It wasn't the life he'd planned, but maybe, just maybe, it was the life he was meant to live. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The media attention would eventually fade. The job at Chen Industries would have its own struggles, and the weight of representing all invisible veterans would be heavy. But tonight, in this moment, Marcus Thompson stood watch over his daughter, as he always had, as he always would, a guardian in the shadows, who had finally stepped into the light. The morning Marcus was to start his new position at Chen Industries, he stood before the mirror in his bedroom, adjusting the tie for the 5th time. His hand, steady enough to field strip a rifle in complete darkness, trembled slightly as he worked with the silk fabric. The suit Victoria had insisted on buying him felt foreign against his skin. Nothing like the comfortable familiarity of his janitor's uniform or the tactical gear he'd worn in Afghanistan. Daddy, you look nervous, Lily observed from the doorway, already dressed for school in her new uniform. The private academy Victoria had arranged for her to attend was a far cry from the underfunded public school she'd been going to, and Marcus still felt uncomfortable about accepting such generosity. I am nervous, baby, he admitted, turning to face his daughter. This is all new to me. Lily walked over and took his hands in her small ones. Remember what you told me when I was scared to start at the new school? You said being scared just means something matters to you, and that's okay. Marcus smiled, continually amazed by his daughter's wisdom. When did you get so smart? I've always been smart, Daddy. You just worry too much to notice sometimes. The drive to Chen Industries headquarters was surreal. Just 6 weeks ago, Marcus had been mopping floors at the mall. Now he was pulling into the executive parking garage of one of the city's most prominent buildings, his name already on a reserved spot near the entrance. The security guard at the desk recognized him immediately. Mr. Thompson, it's an honor to meet you, sir. I'm Jake Morrison, former Navy. The young man stood straighter, almost at attention. What you did at the mall and what Ms. Chen is doing with the veteran program, it means a lot to all of us. Marcus shook his hand firmly. Just Marcus, please. And thank you for your service, Jake. Thank you for yours, sir, and for continuing to serve. The elevator ride to the 20th floor seemed to last forever. When the doors opened, Marcus found himself in a world of glass and steel, of elegant furniture and hushed conversations. Everything screamed money and power, two things he'd never possessed and wasn't sure he knew how to navigate. Marcus, Victoria's voice cut through his anxiety. She was striding toward him, Emma beside her. It was a school holiday, and Emma had insisted on being there for Marcus's first day. Right on time. How are you feeling? Like I'm about to jump out of a plane without checking my parachute, Marcus said honestly. Victoria laughed, a genuine sound that made some of the other employees look up in surprise. Apparently their CEO didn't laugh often in the office. Come on, let me show you to your office. Office, Marcus repeated. I assumed I'd have a desk somewhere, maybe a cubicle. Marcus, you're the director of Veteran Affairs. You have an office, with a door and a window. The office was modest by executive standards, but overwhelming to Marcus. It looked out over the city, and he could see the mall in the distance, a reminder of how his life had changed. The desk was solid wood, the chairs leather, and there was even a small conference table for meetings. But what caught his attention was what Victoria had placed on the bookshelf, a framed photo of Lily, another of Sarah and his service medals in a display case. How did you... Mrs. Rodriguez helped me, Victoria admitted. I wanted you to feel at home here. This is your space, Marcus. Yours to make a difference from. Before Marcus could respond, there was a knock at the door. A man entered, tall and distinguished, with silver hair and sharp eyes. Marcus recognized him from the Business News, Richard Blackstone, chairman of Chen Industries' board of directors. So you're Thompson, Blackstone said, his tone neutral, but his eyes assessing. The hero janitor Victoria's staked so much on. Richard, Victoria's voice carried a warning. It's all right, Marcus said, standing to shake Blackstone's hand. I understand the skepticism, Mr. Blackstone. I have no business experience, no degree, no qualifications for this position, except lived experience. You have every right to question this decision. Blackstone studied him for a moment. You know what your first quarter budget is? $5 million. And you know what the board expects in return? Results, Marcus said simply. Measurable improvement in veteran hiring, retention, and advancement within the company. A program that can be replicated across other corporations. Real change, not just good PR. And if you fail? Marcus met his gaze steadily. Then I'll resign, but I won't fail. I've led men through worse situations than corporate bureaucracy, Mr. Blackstone. I've never left a soldier behind, and I won't start now. Something in Blackstone's expression shifted. Victoria said you were different. Maybe you are. The board meets Thursday. You'll present your initial plan then. Don't disappoint us, Thompson. After he left, Victoria touched Marcus's arm. Don't let Richard intimidate you. He's tough but fair. Show him results, and he'll be your biggest supporter. I'm not intimidated, Marcus said. In Afghanistan, we had a saying, embrace the suck. This is just a different kind of suck to embrace. Emma, who had been quietly coloring at the conference table, looked up. Mr. Marcus, what does embrace the suck mean? Marcus glanced at Victoria, who nodded. It means when things are hard, when you want to quit, you don't run from it. You accept it, face it, and push through it. Like when you have to do homework you don't like, but you do it anyway because it's important. Oh, Emma said thoughtfully. Like when mommy has to go to boring meetings, but does it anyway. Victoria laughed again. Exactly like that, sweetheart. The first few days were overwhelming. Marcus had to learn corporate structure, budget management, human resources policies, a whole new language that had nothing to do with the military world he knew. But he approached it like a mission, studying late into the night after Lily went to bed, taking notes, asking questions. His first real test came at the end of the week. Victoria had arranged for him to meet with a group of veterans who already worked for Chen Industries, mostly in entry-level positions. They gathered in a conference room, about 15 men and women, all looking skeptical. So you're the new veterans advocate, One of them, a woman named Sandra, who worked in the mailroom, said with barely concealed sarcasm. Another suit who's going to tell us how grateful we should be for the opportunity. Marcus stood, and then deliberately he took off his suit jacket and rolled up his sleeves. The scars on his arms were visible reminders of his service, his sacrifice. Staff Sergeant Marcus Thompson, 75th Rangers, 3 tours in Afghanistan, he said, his voice carrying the authority of command. Medically retired after taking 6 rounds saving my squad. Spent the last 3 years pushing a mop at Westfield Mall, invisible to everyone, including the executives of this company. So no, I'm not here to tell you to be grateful. I'm here to change things. The room's atmosphere shifted immediately. You were really a janitor? Asked a young man, missing his left arm below the elbow. Until 6 weeks ago. Living paycheck to paycheck, struggling to keep a roof over my daughter's head. I know what it's like to have employers see PTSD on your record and suddenly find reasons not to hire you. I know what it's like to have skills that kept people alive in combat be deemed worthless in the civilian world. I know because I've lived it. So what's different now? Sandra challenged. You got lucky. You saved the boss's daughter. The rest of us don't get that kind of opportunity. You're right, Marcus said, surprising them. I got lucky, but that luck gave me this position, and I'm going to use it. Every one of you has a story skills experience that this company isn't utilizing. I want to hear those stories. I want to know what you can really do, not just what box they've put you in. He spent the next 3 hours listening. Sandra had been a logistics specialist coordinating supply chains in Iraq that made Amazon look simple, but here she was sorting mail. The young man with the missing arm, Tommy, had been a communications specialist who could set up secure networks in the middle of nowhere, but he was working as a parking attendant. Story after story of a wasted potential of heroes reduced to the margins. This changes now, Marcus promised them. Give me a month. Let me show you what's possible. That night, Marcus worked until 2 a.m. creating detailed profiles of each veteran, matching their military skills to positions within the company where they could excel. He researched successful veteran programs at other corporations, adapted them to Chen Industries' structure, and began drafting a proposal that would revolutionize how the company viewed veteran employees. The board meeting arrived too quickly. Marcus stood outside the boardroom, his proposal in hand, feeling more nervous than he had before any mission in Afghanistan. Victoria found him there, pacing. You've got this, she said firmly. Remember, you've faced Taliban fighters. The board of directors should be easy in comparison. The Taliban never controlled my salary, Marcus said dryly, making her laugh. True, but they also never had to face a ranger with a mission. Go in there and show them who you are. The boardroom was intimidating, a long table of polished wood floor-to-ceiling windows, and 12 board members who looked like they'd never missed a meal or wondered how they'd pay rent. Marcus had addressed groups of skeptical soldiers before, but this was different. These people spoke in numbers, profit margins, and quarterly projections. Ladies and gentlemen, Marcus began, his voice steady despite his nerves. You're probably wondering why you should listen to a janitor about corporate strategy. That got their attention. 6 weeks ago, that's what I was. Today, I'm asking you to invest not just money, but faith in a program that will transform Chen Industries' relationship with veterans. Not because it's the right thing to do, though it is, but because it makes business sense. He clicked to his first slide showing statistics about veteran employment. Veterans have a 1% lower turnover rate than non-veterans. They have higher levels of teamwork, leadership, and performance under pressure. Companies with strong veteran hiring programs see an average of 3% better performance in stock prices. But most importantly, veterans understand mission commitment. We don't quit when things get hard. Richard Blackstone leaned forward. Pretty numbers, Thompson. But how does this translate to our bottom line? Marcus clicked to the next slide, showing profiles of the veterans he'd interviewed. Sandra Martinez, currently in your mailroom, coordinated supply chains for 50,000 troops in Iraq. She could revolutionize your logistics department. Tommy Chen, no relation to our CEO, set up communication networks in combat zones. Your IT department is currently outsourcing work he could do better in-house. I've identified 47 veterans currently in entry-level positions who have skills that could save this company millions if properly utilized. And the cost, another board member asked. $5 million in the first year for training placement and support programs. Projected savings from improved efficiency and reduced turnover, 8 million. Projected improvement in government contracts due to veteran hiring preferences, potentially tens of millions. But the real value. The message it sends that Chen Industries doesn't just use veterans for good PR, but actually values what they bring. The questions came fast and hard. Marcus answered them all, drawing on his research, his experience, his passion for the mission. When they asked about his lack of corporate experience, he talked about leading men through life or death situations. When they questioned the program's scope, he broke it down into tactical phases like a military operation. An hour later, the board voted. Unanimous approval with full funding. As Marcus left the boardroom emotionally drained but victorious, he found Emma waiting in Victoria's office. "Did you win, Mr. Marcus?" she asked eagerly. "We won," Marcus corrected. "Your mom won for believing in me. The veterans won for getting a chance. Everyone won." "Does this mean you're not going back to being a janitor?" Marcus knelt down to her level. "I'm staying, Emma. But you know what? There's nothing wrong with being a janitor. Every job has dignity if you do it well." "I know," Emma said seriously. "But I like that now everyone can see how special you are. Before you were like a secret hero. Now you're a real hero." "I was always real, sweetheart. People just see me now." The program launched 3 weeks later with a press conference that drew national attention. Marcus stood at the podium, uncomfortable as always with the spotlight, but determined to use it for good. "Today, Chen Industries begins a new chapter," he said, looking out at the assembled media. "We're not just hiring veterans, we're investing in them, recognizing their skills and giving them pathways to success. This isn't charity, this is smart business. These men and women have proven themselves in the most challenging conditions imaginable. They deserve more than thank you for your service platitudes. They deserve opportunity." The first veteran promoted under the program was Sandra Martinez, who went from the mailroom to assistant director of logistics. Her first month in the position, she identified inefficiencies that saved the company $300,000. Tommy Chen was moved to IT, where he designed a new security protocol that prevented a potential data breach. His supervisor, initially skeptical about hiring someone with a visible disability, became his biggest advocate, but not everything was smooth. Marcus faced resistance from middle managers who resented having their departments restructured. He dealt with veterans who struggled with the transition, who needed more support than initially anticipated. There were failures, a veteran who couldn't handle the corporate environment, and quit another who relapsed into alcohol abuse under the stress. Marcus handled each setback personally, adjusting the program, adding mental health support, creating peer mentorship networks. He drew on his military experience, treating each veteran not as an employee, but as a squad member who needed support to complete the mission. One particularly difficult case was James Bradley, a former Marine sniper who'd been working night security. James was brilliant. He could analyze patterns and assess threats like no one else, but he was also deeply traumatized, prone to panic attacks, barely functional in crowded spaces. "I can't do this," James told Marcus after a particularly bad day when he'd had to leave a meeting due to anxiety. "I'm broken, man. I should just stick to night security where no one has to see me falling apart." Marcus closed his office door and sat beside James, not behind his desk, but right next to him, shoulder to shoulder like soldiers in a foxhole. "You see that medal case?" Marcus pointed to his display. "Bronze Star with Valor. You know what I got it for? Holding it together while my squad was under fire, coordinating our defense, calling in air support. You know what happened 10 minutes after we were extracted? I collapsed. Full panic attack. Shaking so bad the medic thought I was having a seizure." James looked at him in surprise. Me? And it still happens. Last week a car backfired in the parking garage and I hit the deck. Security camera caught it all. The only difference between us and everyone else is we've been places, seen things that rewired our brains for survival. That's not broken, James. That's adapted. We just need to figure out how to use that adaptation here. Boss, Marcus restructured James's position, allowing him to work primarily from home, analyzing security protocols and threat assessments. Within 2 months, James had identified 3 major vulnerabilities in Chen Industries' corporate security that could have cost millions if exploited. He was promoted to senior security analyst, working remotely with occasional in-person meetings in small groups. The success stories began to pile up, drawing attention from other corporations. Marcus was invited to speak at conferences to consult with other companies establishing their own programs, but he always returned focus to the individual veterans, to their stories, their potential. 6 months into the program, Marcus received an unexpected visitor. Robert Henley's sister, Margaret, the one whose unemployment had triggered Robert's breakdown at the mall, stood nervously in his office doorway. "I'm sorry," she said quickly. "I know I shouldn't be here. I needed to thank you." Marcus stood gesturing for her to sit. "You have nothing to thank me for, ma'am. You spoke for my brother at his sentencing. You asked for leniency, after what he did to you after he almost killed that little girl." "He was in pain," Marcus said simply. "Desperate people do desperate things. I've been desperate. I understand." Margaret was crying now. "I lost my job at Chen Industries 6 months before the shooting. 20 years I gave her, she said, referring to Victoria. Then the merger happened and I was just a number on a spreadsheet eliminated to improve profit margins. What did you do there? Accounting, senior analyst. I was good at my job, Mr. Thompson, really good. But I was also 55 years old with a higher salary than new hires, so she shrugged the gesture, carrying years of built-up bitterness. Marcus was quiet for a moment, thinking. Can you still do the work? Of course. Numbers don't change just because corporations decide you're too expensive. Would you be willing to come back to Chen Industries? Margaret looked at him like he'd suggested she fly to the moon. After what Robert did, they'd never get... Let me worry about that. The question is, would you say... Yes. Yes, I would. I need to work, Mr. Thompson, not just for the money, but for the purpose. These 6 months of nothing, they've been killing me. Marcus made some calls. It took persuasion, some careful navigation of corporate politics and personal feelings, but 2 weeks later, Margaret Henley was rehired as a consultant for the accounting department. Victoria had initially resisted, understandably, but Marcus had made his case. This is about breaking cycles, he'd told her. Robert snapped because he saw his sister destroyed by unemployment. If we can help Margaret, maybe it helps Robert heal too. Maybe it prevents another desperate act by someone else who feels invisible and discarded. The day Margaret started work, she stopped by Marcus's office with coffee in Danish. My brother wants you to know he's getting help, real help. The prison counselor says he's making progress. Good, Marcus said. Everyone deserves a chance at redemption. As the first year of the program drew to a close, the numbers were undeniable. Veteran employment at Chen Industries had increased by 300%. Turnover among veteran employees had dropped to near zero. The company had won 3 major government contracts due to their veteran hiring preferences. The program was being studied by business schools, replicated by other corporations, held up as a model of successful veteran integration. But for Marcus, the real success was measured in individual lives changed. Sandra Martinez, who'd gone from the mailroom to running the logistics department. Tommy Chen, whose IT innovations had earned him a patent and a promotion to department head. James Bradley, working from home, but contributing more to corporate security than anyone had imagined possible. And dozens of others no longer invisible, no longer wasted potential. The anniversary of the mall shooting approached with media requests for interviews for Marcus and Victoria and Emma to tell their story again. Marcus declined most of them, but agreed to one joint interview with Victoria for a major network, mainly because they promised to focus on the veteran program rather than the shooting itself. The interviewer, a well-known journalist named Patricia Wells, sat across from them in Victoria's office. The cameras rolled as she asked the expected questions about that day, about the aftermath, about how their lives had changed. Mr. Thompson, Patricia said, you've gone from janitor to executive in 1 year. That's an extraordinary transformation. The only thing that's changed is my visibility, Marcus corrected. I'm the same person I was when I was pushing a mop. The skills were always there, the dedication was always there. I just needed someone to see it. And Miss Chen, you've invested millions in this program. From a business standpoint, has it been worth it? Victoria looked at Marcus, then at the camera. Every penny. But more than that, it's taught me something crucial about leadership, about business, about society. We have heroes among us, people who've sacrificed for our freedom, our safety, and we've been stepping over them on our way to board meetings. That's not just morally wrong, it's economically stupid. These men and women have skills, experiences, perspectives that make our companies stronger. Some critics have said this is just elaborate PR that you're capitalizing on Mr. Thompson's heroism for corporate gain. Marcus leaned forward. Those critics are welcome to come see our veterans at work. Talk to Sandra Martinez about how she restructured our supply chain. Ask Tommy Chen about the security protocols he's developed. Meet James Bradley. Actually meet him virtually because crowds trigger his PTSD and learn about the threats he's prevented. This isn't PR. This is recognizing that the same skills that make someone a good soldier, leadership, problem-solving, grace, under pressure, loyalty, make them exceptional employees. What about other companies who say they can't afford such programs? They can't afford not to have them, Victoria said firmly. The ROI is clear, but beyond that, we have a debt to these men and women. They served us overseas. The least we can do is serve them when they come home. After the interview, as the crew packed up their equipment, Patricia pulled Marcus aside. Off the record, she said quietly. My son is a veteran. Iraq 2 tours. He's been unemployed for 8 months, can't get his foot in the door anywhere. Could I send you his resume? Marcus handed her his card. On the record, Ms. Wells send me his information. If Chen Industries can't place him, I'll find someone who can. No veteran gets left behind. That evening, Marcus attended Lily's school play. She was playing a tree in a production about seasons, and she'd been practicing her swaying for weeks. As he sat in the auditorium, surrounded by other parents with their phones and cameras, he spotted Victoria and Emma a few rows ahead. Emma turned and waved enthusiastically, and Victoria smiled that warm, genuine smile he'd come to treasure. After the play, as parents gathered their children, Lily ran to Marcus, still dressed as a tree. Did you see me, Daddy? Did you see me sway? You were the best tree on that stage, Marcus said, lifting her up. The absolute best. Mr. Marcus. Emma appeared, dragging Victoria behind her. Lily was amazing. The two girls immediately began chattering about the play, and Marcus found himself standing with Victoria, watching their daughters with identical fond smiles. They've become quite the pair, Victoria observed. Like sisters, Marcus agreed. Lily asked me the other day if Emma could be her real sister. Victoria glanced at him, something unreadable in her expression. What did you tell her? That family isn't always about blood. Sometimes it's about the people who show up for you, who see you when you're invisible, who stand by you when things get hard. That's beautiful, Marcus. That's Sarah, he admitted. Something she used to say. She would have liked you, I think. Would have liked what you've done for veterans, for me, for Lily. I would have liked to meet her. She must have been extraordinary to capture your heart. Marcus smiled softly. She was. She saw me when I came back broken from my second tour, and she didn't run. She helped put me back together piece by piece. When she got sick, I tried to do the same for her, but you did, Marcus. You gave her 2 more years. You gave Lily memories of her mother. That's not nothing. They stood in comfortable silence, watching their daughters plan future playdates, future adventures. The auditorium was emptying around them, but neither seemed in a hurry to leave. Marcus, Victoria said suddenly, I need to tell you something. The board wants to expand the veteran program nationally. Every Chen Industries facility, every subsidiary. They want you to lead it. Marcus turned to her in shock. That's huge. That's hundreds of veterans, maybe thousands. You'd need a team, of course, more resources. Your budget would increase to $50 million annually. You'd report directly to me and the board. It's a massive undertaking. Why me? Surely there are people with more experience. Because you've lived it, Victoria interrupted. Because you understand both sides, the veteran struggling to adapt and the corporation trying to function. Because in 1 year you've changed more lives than most executives do in entire careers. Because you see people really see them in a way that can't be taught in business school. Marcus was quiet, overwhelmed by the scope of what she was offering. It would mean more responsibility, more pressure, more time away from Lily. But it would also mean more veterans helped, more invisible heroes made visible. Can I think about it? Of course, take your time. The board doesn't need an answer until next month. As they gathered their daughters and headed to the parking lot, Lily slipped her hand into Marcus's. Daddy, are you happy? She asked the same question she'd asked months ago when he was lying in a hospital bed. Marcus looked at his daughter, at Emma and Victoria walking beside them, at the life that had emerged from one moment of instinctive courage. He thought about the veterans whose lives had changed, about Margaret Henley rebuilding her career, about Robert getting help in prison, about the ripples of impact spreading from that single bullet he'd taken. "Yes, baby," he said, and meant it. "I'm happy." "Good," Lily said simply. "Mommy would be happy too. She always said you were meant for big things." That night, after Lily was asleep, Marcus sat in his small living room looking at Sarah's picture. The apartment wasn't much. They still hadn't moved despite Victoria's repeated offers to help them upgrade, but it was home. It was where Sarah's memory lived strongest, where Lily had grown up, where they'd built their life together and then rebuilt it after loss. His phone buzzed. A text from Victoria: "Thank you for today, for every day. Emma hasn't stopped talking about how Lily was the best treat ever. You've given her something precious, a friend who sees her as Emma, not as the CEO's daughter. That's a gift." Well, Marcus typed back, "You gave us the same gift. Lily has someone who shows her that strength comes in many forms. Thank you." A pause then. "We make a good team, Marcus Thompson." "Yes," he typed, "we do." As he set his phone aside, Marcus thought about teams, about the units he'd led in Afghanistan, about the veterans he now led at Chen Industries, about the unexpected family that had formed from tragedy. Teams weren't always formed by choice or design. Sometimes they were forged in crisis, bonded by shared experience, strengthened by mutual respect and growing affection. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The national expansion would test him in ways he couldn't yet imagine. There would be failures among the success's veterans he couldn't help, systems resistant to change. But there would also be moments of triumph, lives transformed, potential realized. Marcus stood and walked to Lily's room, standing in the doorway, as he did every night, watching her sleep. She'd kicked off her covers, and he gently pulled them back up, tucking them around her small form. "Your daddy's going to change the world," he whispered, echoing what Sarah used to say. "Maybe not the whole world, but our corner of it, one invisible hero at a time." The decision to accept the national expansion weighed on Marcus for weeks. He found himself awake at 3 a.m, standing on his small balcony, looking out at the city lights and thinking about what Sarah would say. The answer came to him in her voice, clear as if she were standing beside him. "Mark, you were never meant for small things. Stop being afraid of your own capacity for greatness." When he told Lily about the opportunity over breakfast, she looked at him with those serious brown eyes that reminded him so much of her mother. "Will you be gone a lot, Daddy?" she asked, pushing her cereal around the bowl. "Sometimes," Marcus admitted. "I'd have to travel to different cities, help set up programs there. But I'd always come home to you." Lily was quiet for a moment, then said, "Ms. Victoria told me something when you were in the hospital. She said sometimes doing the right thing means making sacrifices. If you can help more soldiers like you, then I think Mommy would want you to do it." "When did you get so wise, baby girl?" "I've always been wise, Daddy. You just worry too much about me to notice." Marcus accepted the position that afternoon, and within a week, his life transformed again. He was given a larger office, an assistant named Rebecca, who was herself a veteran, and a team of 12 people dedicated to rolling out the program nationally. The first challenge came immediately. Chen Industries had facilities in 15 states each, with its own corporate culture, its own resistance to change. The pushback was stronger than expected. In Dallas, the regional manager flat out refused to implement the program, claiming his hiring practices were fine as they were. In Detroit, the union representatives worried that veteran preferences would disadvantage current workers. In Seattle, a group of middle managers signed a petition claiming Marcus was unqualified to oversee such a massive initiative. "You need to visit each site personally," Victoria advised during one of their weekly meetings. "Show them who you are. Make them understand this isn't just corporate mandate, but a mission." So Marcus began traveling, taking red-eye flights to save money from his budget that could be better spent on the veterans themselves. Each city brought new challenges, new stories, new invisible heroes waiting to be seen. In Dallas, he met Maria Gonzalez, a former Army medic working as a janitor in the Chen Industries regional office. She had saved 17 lives in Iraq, had medals for valor, but couldn't get hired as an EMT because of a minor disability in her left hand from an IED explosion. They said I couldn't perform all the essential functions, Maria told him bitterly. I performed combat surgery in the back of a Humvee while under fire, but apparently I can't be trusted with civilian emergency medicine. Marcus arranged for Maria to be transferred to the company's health services department, where her experience proved invaluable. Within 3 months, she'd redesigned their emergency response protocols and was training other employees in battlefield-tested first aid techniques. In Detroit, he found Kevin Washington, a former Marine struggling with PTSD working night shifts in the warehouse because he couldn't handle the crowds and noise of daytime operations. But Kevin had been a logistics genius in the Marines, coordinating supply lines across entire provinces in Afghanistan. I know I'm wasting away here, Kevin told Marcus during their meeting. But the anxiety, man, some days I can barely leave my apartment. How am I supposed to function in an office? Marcus worked with him to create a hybrid position, allowing Kevin to work from home 3 days a week, coming in during off-peak hours when the office was quieter. He was promoted to logistics coordinator, and his innovations in supply chain management saved the Detroit facility $2 million in his first year. But it wasn't all success stories. In Phoenix, Marcus tried to help a veteran named David who was struggling with addiction. Despite multiple interventions, support groups, and second chances, David relapsed and had to be let go. Marcus took it personally, spending sleepless nights wondering what more he could have done. "You can't save everyone," Victoria told him during one particularly difficult phone call. Marcus was in his hotel room in Phoenix, exhausted and defeated after David's termination. "In Afghanistan, we had a motto, 'Leave no one behind,'" Marcus said. "But sometimes people leave themselves behind," Victoria replied gently. "You gave him opportunities, support, resources. You can't want someone's recovery more than they want it themselves." "I know you're right. It feels like failure." "No, Marcus, failure would be not trying at all. You've helped hundreds of veterans in the past year. Don't let one loss overshadow all those victories." The traveling was taking its toll. Marcus missed Lily's school events, her bedtime stories, the quiet moments that had defined their relationship since Sarah's death. Mrs. Rodriguez stepped up, as she always did, but Marcus could hear the loneliness in Lily's voice during their nightly phone calls. "Emma's mom took us to the zoo today," Lily told him during one call. "She said you asked her to check on me." Marcus smiled. Victoria had indeed been checking on Lily, taking both girls on outings, making sure Lily didn't feel abandoned. It was a kindness that went beyond professional courtesy, beyond even friendship. "Did you have fun?" "Yes, but it would have been better if you were there. Emma said her mom is lonely too when she works too much. Maybe when you come back we can all go together. Maybe we can baby." The breakthrough in Dallas came unexpectedly. The regional manager who had resisted the program, Bill Morrison, had a son who was about to be discharged from the Army. The young man, William Jr., had lost his right leg in Syria and was struggling with the prospect of civilian life. "My boy doesn't want charity," Bill told Marcus during a tense meeting. "He's proud, stubborn." "Like his father," Marcus observed, earning a grudging smile. "I suppose. But how do I help him without making him feel broken?" Marcus leaned forward. "You show him that different doesn't mean less capable. You give him a purpose, not pity, and you start by implementing this program, so when he's ready, there's a path waiting for him that honors his service and his potential." Bill Morrison became one of the program's strongest advocates after that, and his son William Jr. eventually joined Chen Industries as a project manager, his military experience in logistics proving invaluable. 6 months into the expansion, Marcus received an unexpected call. It was from the Pentagon. The Secretary of Defense wanted to meet with him about potentially implementing similar programs across government contractors. "This is huge, Marcus," Victoria said when he told her. "This could affect thousands of veterans." The meeting was scheduled for the following week in Washington. Marcus flew out early, wanting time to prepare to gather his thoughts. He stood at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, reading names, thinking about cycles of service and sacrifice, visibility and invisibility. "Staff Sergeant Thompson." Marcus turned to find a young man in a wheelchair, probably mid-20s, wearing an Army t-shirt. "Yes." "I'm Specialist James Crawford. I heard you speak at a conference 6 months ago about being invisible after coming home. It changed my life, sir. Marcus sat on a bench nearby, gesturing for James to continue. I was ready to end it all, James said quietly. Lost both legs to an IED wife, left me, couldn't find work. I was invisible, just like you said, but hearing you talk about how that could change how we had value beyond our injuries, I applied to Chen Industries' program in Atlanta. I start next month as a data analyst. That's wonderful, James. You saved my life, sir, as surely as if you'd pulled me out of a burning vehicle. Marcus felt tears burning his eyes. You saved your own life, soldier. You chose to keep fighting. I just reminded you that the mission wasn't over. The Pentagon meeting was intimidating. Marcus sat at a conference table with generals, defense contractors, policymakers, all looking at him expectantly. He'd prepared a presentation, statistics, success stories, but when the moment came, he spoke from the heart. We ask 18-year-olds to carry rifles to make life and death decisions, to lead teams in combat. Then they come home and we tell them they're not qualified to manage a Starbucks without a degree. We train them in logistics, communications, emergency medicine leadership, then act surprised when they struggle to translate those skills to civilian terms. This isn't just about jobs. It's about recognizing that the skills that make good soldiers make exceptional employees. The Secretary of Defense, a former Marine himself, nodded slowly. What do you need from us, Sergeant Thompson? Mandate veteran hiring percentages for defense contractors. Create tax incentives for companies that don't just hire veterans but promote them. Fund transition programs that translate military skills to civilian certifications. And most importantly, change the narrative. Stop treating veterans as charity cases or damaged goods. Start treating them as the assets they are. The meeting led to a task force with Marcus appointed as a civilian advisor. It meant more travel, more time away from Lily, but also more opportunity to create change. During one trip back home, Marcus found Lily and Emma in Victoria's office at Chen Industries. It was a Saturday, and Victoria had brought both girls in while she caught up on work. They were drawing at the conference table while Victoria typed at her computer. Daddy! Lily launched herself at him, and Marcus caught her spinning her around. Mr. Marcus! Emma joined the hug, and Marcus found himself with an armful of giggling girls. Victoria looked up from her computer, and the smile she gave him made his chest tight in a way he hadn't felt since Sarah. Welcome home, hero, she said softly. That evening, the four of them had dinner at Victoria's house. It was the first time Marcus had been there, and he was struck by how normal it felt, how right. Lily and Emma disappeared to play, leaving Marcus and Victoria on the terrace watching the sunset. Can I ask you something personal? Victoria said suddenly. Of course. Do you ever think about after Sarah? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. I didn't for a long time. Couldn't imagine it. Sarah was everything to me. When she died, I thought that part of my life was over. I had Lily to focus on, to live for, but for myself, I was just existing. And now, Marcus looked at her, really looked at her. Not the CEO, not his boss, but Victoria. The woman who'd spent her Saturdays with his daughter, who called him during his travels, just to make sure he was eating, who understood his mission in a way that went beyond professional support. Now I think Sarah would be angry with me for closing myself off. She always said I had too much love to give to waste it on grief. Victoria moved closer, not quite touching, but close enough that he could feel her warmth. Marcus, I need to tell you something. These past months, watching you transform lives, seeing you with the girls, having you in our lives. Emma and I were doing fine before, but we weren't complete. You and Lily have given us something we didn't know we were missing. Before Marcus could respond, his phone rang. It was Rebecca, his assistant, and she sounded panicked. Marcus, I'm sorry to interrupt your evening, but there's been an incident. James Bradley, the veteran working from home in our security division, he's barricaded himself in his apartment. He's having a severe PTSD episode, thinks he's back in Iraq. The police are there, but he's armed and they're talking about SWAT. Marcus was already moving Victoria beside him. I'm on my way. Tell the police to stand down. Do not let them escalate this. I'll drive, Victoria said, already grabbing her keys. They arrived at James's apartment complex to find it surrounded by police cars, lights flashing in the darkness. Marcus pushed through the crowd, Victoria beside him, until he found the officer in charge. Sir, you need to stay back. I'm Marcus Thompson, James's employer and friend. I'm also former military. Let me talk to him. He's armed and dangerous. He's armed and terrified, Marcus corrected. There's a difference. He thinks he's in Iraq. Your presence, your tactics, they're confirming that delusion. Let me go in alone. Absolutely not. Victoria stepped forward, her CEO persona in full force. Officer, this man saved my daughter's life. He's talked down more veterans in crisis than your entire department. You can either let him try or explain to the media tomorrow why you chose SWAT over de-escalation resulting in a veteran's death. The officer looked between them, then sighed. 5 minutes. If you can't talk him down in 5 minutes, we go in. Marcus moved toward the apartment building, but Victoria caught his arm. Be careful, please. Always am. Marcus climbed the stairs slowly, making noise so James would hear him coming. When he reached the apartment door, he could hear furniture being moved inside, defensive positions being established. James, it's Marcus, he called out. I'm alone, unarmed. I'm coming in, brother. Stay back. This position is compromised. They're everywhere. Marcus recognized the panic, the displacement. James wasn't in his apartment anymore. He was in Fallujah or Ramadi fighting for his life. Sergeant Bradley, and Marcus used James's military rank, his command voice. This is Staff Sergeant Thompson. Report your status. There was a pause. Thompson, is that you? It's me, brother. I need a sit rep. What's your position? Position is compromised. Taking fire from multiple directions. Negative, Sergeant. I've cleared the area. You're secure. I need you to lower your weapon and report to me for debrief. Marcus slowly opened the door. James was crouched behind an overturned couch holding a pistol, sweat pouring down his face. His eyes were wild, unfocused, seeing threats that weren't there. James, Marcus said softly, stepping into view. You're home. You're in Chicago. The war's over, brother. You made it home. No, they're coming. I can hear them. That's Mrs. Patterson next door watching Jeopardy too loud. Remember? You always complain about her TV volume. James blinked confusion, replacing panic. Mrs. Patterson. That's right. And downstairs, that's Mr. Kim cooking Korean food. Makes the whole building smell like kimchi. You're home, James. You're safe. Slowly, carefully, Marcus approached. James's hand was shaking the gun, wavering. I can't turn it off, James whispered. The fear, the vigilance, it's always there. I know, Marcus said, sitting down beside him, ignoring the gun. I know, brother, but we're going to get you help. Real help, not just pills and platitudes. You're not alone in this. James looked at him, really seeing him for the first time. Marcus, what are you doing here? Making sure you come to work Monday. You've got that security analysis due, remember? James laughed, a broken sound, and the gun clattered to the floor. Marcus kicked it away gently, then pulled James into a hug as the man broke down completely. I'm so sorry, James sobbed. Nothing to be sorry for. We all have our battles. The important thing is you don't fight them alone. The police entered then, but Marcus waved them back. He stayed with James as the paramedics checked him as they transported him to the VA hospital for psychiatric evaluation. Victoria was waiting outside, and she drove Marcus to the hospital where he stayed until James was settled. You could have been killed, Victoria said as they finally drove home at 2 a.m. No, Marcus said. James would never hurt me. He just needed someone who understood, who could speak his language. You do this a lot, don't you? Help veterans in crisis? Part of the job. No, Marcus, that's not part of any job. That's who you are. When they arrived back at Victoria's house, they found Mrs. Rodriguez asleep on the couch, the girls curled up together in Emma's bed. Marcus carried Lily to the guest room, tucking her in gently. As he turned to leave, Victoria was standing in the doorway. Stay, she said softly. It's late, Lily's already asleep. Just stay. Marcus stayed, not in the guest room with Lily, but on the terrace with Victoria talking until the sun came up. About Sarah, about Victoria's ex-husband who'd left when Emma was 2, about dreams deferred and unexpected second chances. I didn't expect this, Victoria admitted as the sky lightened. When you saved Emma, I was grateful. When you started the program, I was impressed. But somewhere along the way, you became essential, not just to the company, but to us. To me. Marcus reached out, taking her hand. Sarah used to say that hearts don't break, they transform. That love doesn't end, it evolves. I didn't understand what she meant until now. What are you saying, Marcus? I'm saying that saving Emma wasn't the moment my life changed. Meeting you was. Victoria leaned in, and their first kiss was soft, tentative, two people who'd been broken, finding wholeness in each other. They were interrupted by giggling. Lily and Emma were standing in the doorway, hands over their mouths, eyes bright with delight. Does this mean we can be real sisters now? Emma asked. Emma? Victoria blushed. What Lily and I have been planning this for months. Marcus looked at his daughter, who was grinning mischievously. You've been planning this. Daddy, you're brave about everything except feelings. Someone had to help. The four of them ended up having breakfast together, and it felt like something clicking into place, pieces of two broken families forming something new and whole. The news of their relationship spread quickly through Chen Industries. Some questioned the appropriateness of the CEO dating a director, but most had seen it coming for months. The way Victoria lit up when Marcus entered a room, the way Marcus's face softened when he spoke about her. Richard Blackstone pulled Marcus aside at the next board meeting. I had my doubts about you, he admitted. Thought Victoria was letting emotion cloud her judgment. I was wrong. You've not only exceeded every expectation with the veteran program, you've made her happier than I've seen her in years. Sir, I want you to know that my relationship with Victoria won't affect my work. Thompson, your relationship with Victoria is part of your work. You've both been so focused on saving everyone else, you forgot to save yourselves. Don't apologize for finding happiness. The veteran program continued to expand. By the end of the second year, it had placed over 3,000 veterans in meaningful positions across Chen Industries and inspired dozens of other companies to create similar programs. Marcus was invited to testify before Congress about veteran employment, to speak at universities, to consult with organizations worldwide. But the moment that meant the most came in a small ceremony at the White House. Marcus stood in his dress uniform, medals gleaming as the president placed the Medal of Honor around his neck. Not for what he'd done at the mall, but for his actions in Afghanistan years before finally recognized. Lily and Victoria and Emma were in the front row, beaming with pride. His unit was there, the men he'd saved now, with families of their own. James Bradley was there, stable on medication and therapy, still working from home, but thriving. Sandra Martinez, Tommy Chen, Kevin Washington, Maria Gonzalez, all the veterans whose lives had been transformed. Staff Sergeant Marcus Thompson exemplifies the best of America, the president said. His courage in combat saved lives. His courage in civilian life has saved souls. He reminds us that heroism isn't a moment but a lifetime of choices to serve others before ourselves. After the ceremony at the reception, Marcus found himself standing with his old squad leader, Master Sergeant Jake Reynolds, who'd flown in from Texas. You know what the crazy thing is, Jake said, watching Lily and Emma chase each other around the rose garden. You did more for veterans with a mop and bucket than most people do with millions of dollars and political power. I just made people see what was already there, Marcus said. No, brother. You became impossible to ignore, and in doing so, you made all of us impossible to ignore. As the reception wound down, Marcus found a quiet moment with Lily. She was sitting on a bench, still in her fancy dress, looking older than her years. You okay, baby girl? Mommy would be so proud, Lily said softly. She always said you were meant for great things. She was right about most things. Do you think she'd be okay with Victoria and Emma, with us becoming a family? Marcus sat beside her, pulling her close. I think your mom loved us so much, she'd want us to keep growing that love, to share it with others who needed it. Victoria and Emma needed us, and we needed them. That's not replacing Mom. That's honoring what she taught us about love. Lily leaned into him. I love you, Daddy. I love you too, baby. Always and forever. Victoria approached with Emma, and they sat together on the bench, the four of them looking out at the White House lawn. It was a long way from that terrifying moment in the mall, from Marcus bleeding on the floor from invisibility and desperation. What now? Victoria asked, slipping her hand into Marcus's. Now we keep going, Marcus said. Keep finding invisible heroes, keep changing lives, keep building this family. Together, Emma asked hopefully. Together. Marcus confirmed, looking at each of them. His daughter, his love, his future daughter. Always together. The sun was setting over Washington, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. Somewhere in the city, a veteran was filling out an application for Chen Industries program. Somewhere else, a corporate executive was reconsidering their hiring practices. The ripples of one moment of courage, one bullet taken, one life saved continued to spread. Marcus Thompson had been invisible once. Now he stood in the light medal of honor around his neck, surrounded by love purpose radiating from every decision. But he never forgot the shadows, never stopped looking for others who needed to be seen. Because that's what heroes do. They stand watch, they protect, they serve. And sometimes, if they're very lucky, they get to do it surrounded by family, by love, by the knowledge that their sacrifice mattered, that their service continued, that their visibility could light the way for others. The ceremony ended. The cameras stopped rolling, the dignitaries went home. But Marcus Thompson's mission continued. One veteran at a time, one life at a time, one moment of recognition at a time. The invisible war hero had become impossible to ignore. And he was just getting started. The weeks following the Medal of Honor ceremony brought changes Marcus hadn't anticipated. The media attention was relentless with requests for interviews, speaking engagements, and book deals flooding in daily. But it was a different kind of request that stopped him cold one morning as he sat in his office reviewing quarterly reports. Marcus, Rebecca said, entering with an unusual expression on her face. There's someone here to see you. Says he's your father. Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. He hadn't seen or spoken to his father in 15 years, not since the man had walked out on him and his mother when Marcus was 20, just before he enlisted. Should I send him away? Rebecca asked, recognizing his distress. No, Marcus said after a long moment. Send him in. Thomas Thompson walked in looking older, grayer, smaller than Marcus remembered. The man who had loomed so large in his childhood memories, whose absence had shaped so much of Marcus's life, now seemed diminished, almost fragile. Hello, son, Thomas said, his voice uncertain. Don't call me that, Marcus said quietly. You lost that right when you walked out. Thomas nodded, accepting the rebuke. I deserve that. I deserve worse. I saw you on the news. The Medal of Honor ceremony. I had to come. Why to claim some credit, to tell people your son is a hero? No, Thomas said, and to Marcus's surprise there were tears in the older man's eyes. To apologize. To tell you that I was a coward and you became everything I should have been. Marcus was silent, years of anger and abandonment warring with the empathy that had become so central to who he was. I know about Sarah, Thomas continued, about what you went through, how you raised Lily alone. You did what I couldn't do, you stayed. You fought through the hard times. You were the father I never was. Why did you leave? Marcus asked the question he'd carried for 15 years, finally spoken aloud. Thomas sat down heavily, looking every one of his 68 years. Your mother was sick, not physically, but mentally. The depression, the mood swings, I couldn't handle it. I was weak. I ran rather than face it, help her through it. She died thinking I hated her, but the truth was I hated myself for not being strong enough to stay. Marcus thought of Sarah, of watching her fade away from cancer, of holding her hand through the pain and fear. He couldn't imagine leaving her no matter how hard it got. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Thomas said. I know I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know that I followed your career, your service. Every medal, every commendation. I have a box full of newspaper clippings about you. You became the man I pretended to be. I became the man Mom raised me to be, Marcus corrected. She did it alone. Worked 3 jobs to keep us afloat after you left. She died my 2nd year in the Army, still believing she'd somehow failed you. Thomas flinched as if struck. I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. They sat in silence for a moment before Thomas spoke again. I saw the little girl at the ceremony. Lily. She looks like your mother. She has Mom's spirit too. Strong, kind, resilient. Could I meet her? I know I have no right to ask. No, Marcus said firmly. Lily has lost enough people in her life. I won't introduce her to someone who might leave again. Thomas nodded, accepting the judgment. He stood to leave, then paused at the door. For what it's worth, I'm proud of you. Not that my pride means anything, but you should know. You're the hero I never was. After he left, Marcus sat alone in his office for a long time. Victoria found him there an hour later, staring out the window. Rebecca told me about your visitor, she said softly, sitting beside him. Are you okay? I don't know, Marcus admitted. I've hated him for so long. But seeing him today broken and old and full of regret, I just felt sorry for him. That's because you're a good man, Marcus. You understand that people are complicated, that they fail and struggle and sometimes make unforgivable choices. Would you have let him meet Emma if he were your father? Victoria considered this. I don't know. But I know that whatever you decide about Lily is the right choice. You've never failed to protect her. That evening, Marcus told Lily about her grandfather's visit, explaining it in terms appropriate for a 9-year-old. She listened solemnly, then asked a question that surprised him. Is he sick, Daddy? Like in his heart. What do you mean, baby? Well, when people leave their families, something must be really broken inside them. Maybe he's been sick all this time and just now trying to get better. Marcus pulled her close, amazed again by her capacity for compassion. Maybe you're right, but sometimes, even when people are trying to get better, we have to protect ourselves from being hurt again. I understand, Lily said, but Daddy, if he's trying to be better, maybe we could send him a picture sometimes. Not meet him, but just let him know we're okay. Marcus looked at Victoria, who shrugged as if to say it was his choice. We'll see, baby. We'll see. The next morning brought a crisis of a different kind. Marcus arrived at work to find his entire team in emergency mode. Overnight, a video had gone viral. A veteran employed through their program at the Denver facility had been filmed having a violent PTSD episode, destroying property and terrifying customers at a Chen Industries retail location. The media is having a field day, Rebecca reported. They're questioning the entire program, saying we're putting dangerous veterans in positions where they could harm civilians. Marcus watched the video, his heart sinking. He recognized the signs, the trigger, the dissociation, the panic. The veteran, a young woman named Ashley Reeves, had clearly been in crisis. Where is Ashley now? He asked. Psychiatric hold at Denver General. She's stabilized but devastated. She thinks she's destroyed everything we've worked for. Get me on the next flight to Denver, Marcus ordered, and set up a press conference for tomorrow. Marcus, Victoria said, pulling him aside, the board is concerned. They're talking about suspending the program pending review. Then I need to remind them why we started this. One incident doesn't erase 3,000 success stories. In Denver, Marcus found Ashley in the psychiatric ward, curled in a ball on her bed, refusing to speak to anyone. He sat in a chair beside her bed and waited. After an hour, she finally spoke. I ruined everything, she whispered. All those veterans counting on the program, and I ruined it. You had a medical crisis, Marcus said gently. That's not your fault any more than if you'd had a seizure or a heart attack. But people don't understand. They see the video and think we're all dangerous, all-time bombs waiting to explode. Marcus thought for a moment, then made a decision. Ashley, I want you to come to the press conference tomorrow. Tell your story. Show them who you really are, not just the worst moment caught on camera. I can't. I'm too ashamed. Shame is what keeps us invisible, Marcus said. And we're done being invisible. The press conference was packed. Marcus stood at the podium with Ashley beside him, her hands shaking but her head held high. Victoria was there along with several other veterans from the program. Yesterday you saw a video of a veteran in crisis, Marcus began. What you didn't see was the context. Ashley Reeves served 2 tours in Afghanistan as a combat engineer. She's disabled 8 IEDs, saving countless lives. She has a Bronze Star and a Purple Heart. She's also a single mother of 2 working full-time while going to night school for her engineering degree. He paused, letting that sink in. What triggered yesterday's episode was a customer who grabbed her from behind without warning. For a moment, Ashley wasn't in Denver. She was back in Kandahar under attack. This is not weakness or danger. This is the price some pay for their service. And instead of stigmatizing it, we should be supporting it. Ashley stepped forward to the microphone, her voice quiet but steady. I'm not proud of what happened yesterday, she said, but I'm not ashamed of having PTSD. It's an injury I sustained serving my country just as real as if I'd lost a limb. With treatment and support, I manage it successfully 99% of the time. Yesterday was the 1%, and I'm getting help to make sure it doesn't happen again. She looked directly at the cameras. If you fire me, if you cancel this program because of my medical condition, you're telling every veteran with invisible wounds that they don't deserve a second chance, that their service, their sacrifice means less than a few minutes of embarrassing video. The questions came fast and hostile at first, but Marcus and Ashley answered them all. Other veterans stepped forward, sharing their own struggles and successes. Sandra Martinez talked about her own PTSD and how the program had given her purpose again. James Bradley, participating via video link from his home, discussed his ongoing mental health treatment and his valuable contributions to company security despite his limitations. The tide began to turn when Emma stepped up to the microphone. Victoria tried to stop her, but the 10-year-old was determined. "Mr. Marcus saved my life," she said simply. "He got shot protecting me. But before that, he was invisible. Nobody saw him or cared about him. Now he helps other heroes who are invisible. Ashley is a hero too. She just needs help like Mr. Marcus needed help. Why is that bad?" The simplicity of her words, the innocence of her question changed the entire tone of the conference. By the end, several reporters were asking how they could help support the program rather than criticize it. That night in their hotel room, Marcus held Victoria as she cried. "Emma was incredible today, Smet," he said. "You've raised an amazing daughter." "We've raised amazing daughters," Victoria corrected. "This family thing, we're doing it together. Remember, the crisis passed and the program actually grew stronger because of it. Mental health support was expanded. Trigger management protocols were implemented, and education about PTSD became mandatory for all Chen Industries employees, not just veterans. But the real change came a month later when Thomas Thompson appeared at another press conference, this one organized by a coalition of companies implementing veteran hiring programs. Marcus was shocked to see his father at the podium, even more shocked when Thomas began to speak. "My name is Thomas Thompson. I'm nobody special, just an old man with a lot of regrets. But my son, Marcus Thompson, is special. He's a hero, a leader, a father, everything I failed to be." Thomas looked directly at Marcus, who was frozen in his seat. "I abandoned my family when things got hard. Marcus stayed when things got impossible. I ran from responsibility. Marcus ran toward danger to save others. I'm here today to say that if a coward like me can recognize the value of these veterans, their strength and dedication, then every company in America should be able to do the same." He pulled out a check. "I'm donating my entire retirement savings, $500,000, to the Marcus Thompson Foundation. It won't make up for the years I wasn't there, but maybe it can help ensure no veteran ever feels as alone as my son did when he came home from war." The room erupted in applause, but Marcus couldn't move. Victoria squeezed his hand, grounding him. After the conference, Thomas approached them hesitantly. "I know I have no right to ask," he said, "but could I meet her Lily? Just once?" Marcus looked at Victoria, then at his father, really looked at him. He saw regret, yes, but also genuine change, genuine effort to make amends. "One meeting," Marcus said, "supervised. And if you hurt her, if you disappoint her in any way, you're gone forever." The meeting took place the following Sunday in a park. Lily was nervous but curious, holding tight to Marcus's hand as Thomas approached. "Lily," Marcus said gently, "this is Thomas. He's my father." Lily studied the old man with those wise eyes. "You're the one who left." Thomas nodded, unable to speak. "Why did you come back?" "Because I realized that leaving was the biggest mistake of my life. And because I wanted to see what an amazing granddaughter I have, even if I don't deserve to know you." Lily was quiet for a moment, then said, "Daddy says everyone deserves a second chance, but not a third chance. So you better not mess up." Thomas laughed through his tears. "I won't. I promise." They spent an hour together, Thomas telling stories about Marcus as a child, Lily sharing about her school, her friends, her love of reading. It wasn't a reconciliation exactly, but it was a beginning. As they watched Thomas walk away, Lily looked up at Marcus. "He's very sad, isn't he?" "Yes, baby, he is." But maybe if we're kind to him, he'll be less sad. And maybe you'll be less angry. Marcus pulled her close. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise, Daddy. You just worry too much to notice. Marcus finished laughing. I know. The months that followed brought more changes. Marcus and Victoria got married in a small ceremony at the mall where everything had started with Lily and Emma as flower girls and James Bradley as Marcus's best man participating via video link from his home. Richard Blackstone walked Victoria down the aisle, having become something of a father figure to her over the years. Take care of her, Thompson, he said gruffly as he placed Victoria's hand in Marcus's. With my life, Marcus promised, and everyone knew he meant it literally. The reception was held in the Marcus Thompson Pavilion, formerly the food court where he'd been shot. Janet from the pretzel stand made the cake. The security guards formed an honor guard. Veterans from the program filled the seats, their families creating a patchwork of resilience and hope. During the toast, Jake Morrison, the Navy veteran security guard, stood up. 3 years ago, Marcus Thompson was invisible to most of us, just another janitor pushing a mop. Today, he's changed thousands of lives, not through grand gestures, but through daily acts of recognition of seeing people for who they really are. Marcus, you taught us that heroism isn't about being seen, it's about seeing others. The Chen Industries Veteran Program became a model replicated by hundreds of companies nationwide. The Marcus Thompson Foundation grew to help veterans with everything from job placement to mental health support to emergency financial assistance. But for Marcus, the greatest success was smaller, more personal. It was Ashley Reeves graduating with her engineering degree and being promoted to department head. It was James Bradley slowly expanding his comfort zone, eventually able to attend small meetings in person. It was Thomas Thompson volunteering at the foundation, trying to make amends for lost years by helping other veterans reconnect with their families. 5 years after the shooting, Marcus stood in the same mall, now completely renovated, with a memorial plaque where he'd fallen. Lily, now 14, stood beside him, taller, more confident, but still with those wise eyes. Emma was there too, 16 and passionate about social justice planning to study nonprofit management in college. Do you ever regret it? Lily asked. Getting shot, everything changing. Marcus thought about the question. His life had transformed completely, from invisible janitor to national advocate for veterans, from single father struggling to survive to husband and father of 2 remarkable girls, from forgotten hero to Medal of Honor recipient. No, he said finally. I don't regret it. That moment, that choice to save Emma, it didn't just save her life. It saved mine too. It gave me purpose, visibility, a chance to make a real difference. And it gave us a family, Emma added, linking her arm through his. Victoria joined them, having finished a call with yet another company wanting to implement their veteran program. Ready to go home? She asked. Home was no longer the tiny apartment, but a house big enough for their blended family, with rooms for both girls and a spare room where Thomas sometimes stayed when his health was bad. The walls were covered with photos, military service photos, wedding pictures, family vacations, and dozens of pictures of veterans whose lives had been changed by the program. As they walked through the mall toward the exit, Marcus noticed a janitor emptying trash cans near the entrance. The man was young, maybe mid-20s, with the distinctive gait of someone with a prosthetic leg. Marcus recognized the signs of military service, the alertness, the way he positioned himself to see all angles, the efficiency of movement. "Excuse me," Marcus said, approaching him. The janitor looked up, startled. "Yes, sir. Is there a problem?" "No problem. I'm Marcus Thompson. I run the Veteran Employment Program at Chen Industries. Are you a veteran?" The young man straightened. "Yes, sir. Marine Corps. 2 tours in Syria. Lost my leg to an IED. And now you're here pushing a trash cart." "It's honest work, sir. Better than nothing." Marcus pulled out his business card. "Call me Monday. Let's talk about what you're really capable of, not just what people see when they look at you." The Marine's eyes widened. "You're the Marcus Thompson, the Medal of Honor guy, sir. You're a legend." "I'm just someone who got noticed. Now it's your turn." As they left the mall, Victoria squeezed his hand. "You can't help yourself, can you? Always looking for the invisible ones." "Someone has to see them," Marcus said simply. Someone has to remind them they matter. That night, as had become their tradition, the family gathered for Sunday dinner. Thomas was there healthier after getting treatment for his diabetes and depression through the VA with Marcus's help. Mrs. Rodriguez joined them, having become like a grandmother to both girls. Even James Bradley attended via video call on the laptop propped at his place at the table. "What are we grateful for this week?" Victoria asked their traditional dinner question. "I'm grateful for second chances," Thomas said quietly, "and for the people patient enough to give them." "I'm grateful for family," Mrs. Rodriguez added, "the kind you're born into and the kind you choose." "I'm grateful Emma made me do that math homework," Lily said, making everyone laugh. "I actually understood the test." "I'm grateful for Dad," Emma said, looking at Marcus. "Both of them, the one who gave me life and the one who saved it." Marcus felt his throat tighten. Emma had started calling him Dad a year ago, but it still moved him every time. "I'm grateful for visibility," Marcus said when it was his turn, "for being seen and for the ability to see others." Victoria went last. "I'm grateful for that terrible, terrifying day at the mall, because without it, we wouldn't have this family, this purpose, this life we've built together." Later that evening, after everyone had gone home or to bed, Marcus stood on the back porch looking at the stars. He thought about the journey from Afghanistan to this moment, from violence to peace, from isolation to connection, from invisible to seen. His phone buzzed with a text. It was from the young Marine at the mall. "Sir, I know it's late, but I wanted to say thank you. I've felt invisible for so long. You seeing me today, it means everything. I'll call Monday. I'm ready to be more than what people see." Marcus smiled, typing back, "You already are more. Now we just have to make sure everyone else sees it too." Victoria came out wrapping her arms around him from behind. "New recruit, new possibility," Marcus corrected. "Every invisible hero we find is a life that could be transformed." "You know you can't save them all, right?" Marcus turned to face her, pulling her close. "No, but I can try. We can try. Together." They stood there in the darkness, two people who had found each other through tragedy and built something beautiful from the pieces. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, veterans in crisis corporate bureaucracy, the ongoing struggle to change hearts and minds about what heroes look like when they come home. But tonight, Marcus Thompson was simply a man standing with his wife in the home they'd built, surrounded by the family they'd created, no longer invisible, but illuminated by purpose and love. The scared janitor who'd thrown himself in front of a bullet had become something more, not just a hero, but a beacon for other heroes, a reminder that everyone deserves to be seen, to be valued, to be given the chance to transform their lives. In the distance, the lights of the city twinkled like stars, each one representing a life, a story, a potential waiting to be recognized. Marcus had been one of those lights once hidden and dim. Now he burned bright, not for himself, but to light the way for others. The invisible war hero had become impossible to ignore, but more importantly, he'd made sure thousands of others would never be invisible again.